You are listening to the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, where you discover management insights and strategies for your successful dental practice. There are also interviews with key people in the industry who have advice and services to help you and your team achieve great success. Welcome to this episode of the Julie Parker Practice Success Podcast, and I have got returning guests today from the Proven Group, Carmel Brown and Belinda Fyffe. How are you both today?
Great, thank you. Having a wonderful morning.
Very well. Great to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, the Proven Group are an external human resources and OH&S company that can really help you with the management of your team. And Belinda, you said it beautifully. Just like for all of your finances, you've got your accountant. What you guys do is play the same role, but for all the team management, human resources, occupational health and safety issues. That's correct?
Absolutely. So most small businesses, as I said, have got an accountant that they trust, which is nice because that's been built up over a number of years, and they start usually with compliance things and then they move into helping them actually achieve the strategy in their business. And we're a little bit the same in that we usually start with whatever a problem is that a business is actually having, and we address that issue, and then we look at their compliance to Fair Work and awards and all of the other sort of things that are in there. But it's really then moving beyond that and into the engagement of the team, because if you can get the team actually helping you paddle the canoe, you'll get a lot further.
Oh, I like that, paddling the canoe. So we're not getting the right people on the right bus anymore. We're getting the right people in the right seats within the canoe.
What is the problem? It's good.
Yeah. We also do put them on the bus, though. We do pop them on the bus, because if you put the people on the bus and they're all in the right seats, and they're all on board, then they're also travelling and all in the same direction.
That is tremendous. Travelling to the bay where we're going to get in the canoe and get the next part of the journey happening. Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, Carmel, you've had all sorts of wonderful success with the Proven Group, both yourself and Belinda, with all the awards that you've been winning lately. I've been seeing all this on Facebook, and I thought, man, I've got to get these people back on. They're getting more famous.
Yeah, we have. The reason that we did is 2018 was the last time the Proven Group won an award, and of course the next year we've been in them consistently 4 years. So we took 2019 off, thinking we'll just have the year off, and however COVID hit as it did, so we had more than 1 year off. Update the awards, and because we've grown and changed so much over the last couple of years, was another reason as well. We have been very fortunate enough that we're in the finalists in the Ballarat Business Excellence Awards last Thursday night, which I will say, and I've said it many times, it was probably one of the best gala nights I've actually been to. The room was just full of camaraderie, and everybody was so... 600 people in one room to feel it all night. There was no competition. It wasn't like it was competition, like they're sort of like, they're my competitor and all this. Everyone was just there together. We are also, next month, we're in the National HR Excellence Awards as an Excellence Awardee. And then in October 27th, we'll be attending another gala night at the GMHBA Stadium in Geelong for the Geelong Business Excellence Awards.
How excellent. How aptly named. That is very excellent. Congratulations.
Excellence, isn't there?
I wanted you back in the room again. That's why. I wanted to be more excellent myself, just by leveraging off your excellence. So congratulations. It's just magnificent. Wonderful success. And I wonder if part of that camaraderie is that everyone's just so happy to be able to be back in physical rooms together and being able to bounce that wonderful energy off each other again, rather than doing everything virtually.
Absolutely. Yes, that's what was really the sense. And I think too as well, I think with the businesses, look, like for example, in the Ballarat Awards, there were like 460 or 480 applications and 41 businesses actually in the room. But apart from the fact of being such a great exercise, I think any business that entered the award, regardless of what level they got to, I just think it shows how, strong, adaptable and resilient that they've been over the last couple of years to still be able to write the application. So
yeah,
everyone's
nice.
a winner in my eyes.
Yeah, nice. And Belinda, the Proven Group do work a lot with dental practices. As you know, that's our audience, dental practices. How have you been assisting dental practices within the Proven Group over the years?
Oh, well, look, first and foremost, it's always with, whatever the issue is that the person has at the time. And one that springs to mind was a practice that I went and spent some time in, and they had a particular individual who was the linchpin of the group, in that if she walked in and wasn't in a good mood, everyone kind of ducked for cover. Like, they were just... so she was kind of one of those... She'd been around a long time, knew a lot of people, knew all the suppliers, all of that kind of thing. But we kind of couldn't really work out what she did for during the day. Like, what was
Rather
her
than just causing trouble.
Yeah, and it was a fairly sizable practice, and I think over the years she'd had a role, and she'd managed to kind of delegate pretty much everything out. And I had an interesting conversation with her one day about what her role actually was. So,
was she surprised that she had other tasks to complete?
Well, we actually asked her to write her own position description, because we didn't know that the practice had actually changed hands, and they'd inherited this person who apparently was fantastic and did all this stuff, and we couldn't figure out anything that they did. And interestingly, she didn't like being asked that question and decided to move on, which was fine. We didn't miss her, so I didn't know what she did in the end.
It's really quite interesting when you get a disruptive person leave the team. You feel trapped when you're there, and it's going to be a difficult process to get them to move on. You're always kind of crossing your fingers that these people make that decision themselves. Otherwise, you do enter into quite a process that has to be researched and managed very well. And but once they're gone, there's this light. And there's, it's like the sun starts streaming through the front door again and everything's all good. But it's important to get these sort of people moved on, or have them change their behaviour within the organisation and be a positive contributor again as quickly as possible, because the longer that's in there, the stronger that hook is, isn't it?
That's it. And what will happen over a long period of time, if they're there for a number of years and you kind of don't address it, you'll lose good staff. Other people will kind of go, you know what, they get away with everything, why am I here? Or I will drop my performance as well, so which is even worse, for the business owner. So it's important that these things are addressed. And the interesting thing about that particular example is, as soon as we put a spotlight on her and actually showed her that we were going to be managing what she was actually doing, we didn't actually even get to a disciplinary process, didn't get to a written warning process. She just left.
The minute that accountability was there, that was it.
Yeah. Little bit of pressure sometimes, and they'll kind of go on their own, and if they don't, it's a matter of following due process, and having a written warning process that's fair and equitable, transparent, all of those kinds of things. And that's where we help businesses, because we come in and do them with the business. We don't just tell them how to do them and then get them to do them. We actually do them with them, because they've got to be done correctly. We need to have procedural fairness, and the person needs to be given an opportunity. And I'm really passionate about that, because if they're not told that they're not up to scratch, well, they're never going to improve. And I always sort of say to clients, the whole disciplinary process is fascinating, because every now and again you get someone who improves. And I can never pick who that is on the way in. I always think they're just destined to exit the business. But every now and again, someone improves, and they're fantastic after that. So, to me, it's an opportunity for that person. And if we're not brave and upfront about that opportunity, then they're never going to improve.
That's right. And I think that's why we can't just have one approach, one system to manage someone that might be underperforming in some way, because we are surprised, as Charles Covess, co-founder of Julie Parker Practice Success, I was just mentioning his book to you guys earlier, Passionate People Produce, as he says, we're all weirdos. And so we're not all going to go through that process and have the same results. So we're all going to have different ways and different potential, different strengths, different weaknesses. And sometimes that means some people will be moving on by themselves. Sometimes they'll be kicked out. Sometimes they'll stay and improve markedly and have a really positive impact on the team.
Yep.
Which leads me into, quite nicely, the reason I wanted to get you guys on today. And there has been a book published, a powerful book published. Carmel, you are responsible for the book Less Headaches, Happier Team, and More Success. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you. Yes, very exciting. Yeah, just launched a few months ago, and the response has been overwhelming, which has been really pleasing. I think definitely the heading and the title of the book. We all would like some less headaches and a happier team and more success. And the book was written not to be sold. The book won't be sold. It won't be. It's not up for sale. It's actually to be given. It's our way of giving back to the business community, because of course we've established and grown a successful business, especially over the last couple of years, and not without its challenges along the way. So I think that for us to be able to be in a position to be able to share the top 10 challenges that every business owner really does need to know to be able to inspire and lead and motivate their teams. We thought it was a story worth writing.
Well, I hope you've printed a lot of copies because managing staff seems to be at the top of the list of dental practice managers and owners, things that they deal with on a very regular basis, and the area that they feel the least competent in as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And for all of the listeners, for the dental practice out there, by all means, they order a free copy on the website.
Beautiful. I'll have the link to that as well in the show notes for everyone. So theprovingroup.com.au.
Yep, /book.
/book. That's very simple. So you make things nice and simple, you guys.
Yeah, don't do hard. No.
This is why dental practices love working with you, because you guys do work with dental practices in the whole life cycle of employment, from recruitment, onboarding, performance management, training, and performance improvement if it's needed to be, and advice around performance reviews, etc. And then if needed, moving on to greener pastures for them and greener pastures for the practice as well. So you're focusing on less headaches, happier team, and more success. You mentioned that there were 10 key challenges that are addressed in the book. Is that right?
There are. And even chapter 1, which resonates with all the readers I've had feedback on. Chapter 1 is staff drive me crazy.
Again, top of the list.
That's exactly right. It really is. But the book also too, it just goes through and touches on that, none of us started our business to lead people, to manage people, to have to know compliance and learn all the legislation, deal with conflict and have all these difficult conversations. But we all started a business because we were good at what we did, we were passionate about what we did, we had a service or product to offer. But unfortunately, once, there's a team, as Belinda always says, people are complex beings.
That's been your journey, Belinda?
It absolutely has. People have baggage. I don't know if you've noticed that over the years, but they've got these things called lives and they bring them to work. It's really weird.
And I think, yes, it is such a crucial part of, and such a big part of practice management or business ownership, team management. And as Carmel said, we have these strengths, these areas of life that we love, these skills that we have to be able to earn money and make a living for ourselves. And whenever you do open up a business, you don't realise the headaches that are going to come with staff management. And many times I've spoken to dental practice owners and managers and they say, I never thought I had to end up becoming a therapist. And I think they're confused too. At what point, where's the line? At what point am I quite okay to have these expectations and people should just know what to do, how to be professional, how to be reliable, etc. And at what point am I stepping into their personal world too much or taking that into to consideration to too much of a high degree, and I've blurred the lines too much? What advice do you have around that?
Lots.
So I wrote a book.
Carmel's got a whole book on that. The interesting thing about people, as I said before, they've got these things called lives, so they bring in all of this baggage. And if there's something particularly, stressful or like a pandemic or something like that that's happening in their lives, they've got to homeschool their kids or, lots of other things that happen, good and bad. Good things can still be stressful for people. They add another layer of what they've actually got to do there. And in business, dental practices then have to try and and manage what's actually happening with the person. And so most of us want to help. So we try and help. And therein, that's where the line gets blurred. So I always use a term called reasonable management action. So reasonable is always a word you'll hear in HR circles. So if it's reasonable for you to have a conversation, if it's reasonable for you to offer support, if it's reasonable for you to be a shoulder to cry on, then be that shoulder to cry on. That's okay. But at some point, if they keep circling and coming back with issues that they're dealing with, well, perhaps they might benefit from somebody professional who's trained in that particular area. And that's why we've introduced an employee assistance program as part of our suite of products that we have for dental practices. And that's really about helping them have another avenue that they can offer to the employee that's confidential, completely confidential. They can make their appointment with the counsellor. They can have that conversation or a series of conversations about whatever the issue is in their life, because it doesn't have to be work related, or it may even be an issue with their family member. So a teenager, for instance, I hear they're quite hard work at times. Not that I would, but that person might benefit from seeing a counsellor, and therefore your employee, because their family member is being looked after, has less stress and is able to concentrate more on their work and be more productive. And that's really what an EAP is about. And what we're finding more and more, that mental health side of things, and particularly in Victoria, because on the 1st of July, we've had an update done to the OH&S Act, which now says that we've got to look proactively for psychosocial hazards in the workplace. So that's mental health hazards in the workplace. Like we walk around with a checklist and look for physical hazards, in the workplace we've now got to look for mental health hazards as well and be proactive about it. Sadly, WorkSafe hasn't actually provided very much information about it. They've just left it up to employers to sort that out, and I'm sure we'll get some cases go through, and we'll learn more as hopefully other people do the wrong thing and we find out what it's actually about. But the whole COVID has really put a spotlight on mental health in the community. We're seeing a lot more. We've had the family and domestic violence leave introduced a couple of years ago into Fair Work, and so all workers have that available to them now, including casuals, 5 days unpaid leave per year. Interestingly, that's changing next year, and it's going to become paid leave, and so the practices get to pay it now, and it's going to be 10 days. So it's 1st of February for some businesses, and then others are going to go on the 1st of August. And from memory, I think the dental practices will go the 1st of August, when that's actually another leave that you get to pay if somebody's unfortunately in that situation.
So much fun being a business owner.
Well, and don't forget, they do all of that, pay all this extra leave for people that out of their own pocket, and then they're a tax collector as well for free.
It's really quite amazing. And I have to throw in there, I'm just so surprised that Victoria haven't actually stepped something through properly and done proper due diligence before they brought in something. You go, what a proven track record, come on.
That's not unusual for WorkSafe. They'll bring in the legislation, and then when you phone them and actually ask and want documentation on that, there isn't anything. So, and I think that's because they don't want to narrow it. They want to basically make it really broad and then leave it up to the judges rather than the legislators or the bureaucrats to decide what the answer is. But it doesn't make it any easier for businesses when you're small.
Businesses need specifics. We need absolute specifics to be able to know what to do.
Yeah.
Highlighting the mental health hazards that we're now needing to be wary of and look out for, and the domestic violence leave as well. They are two very good reasons why dental practices should contact you. I had no idea about either.
There you go. So,
and I'm sure a lot of them out there had no idea as well.
Yeah.
And so it is important to keep on top of things to make sure that we're consistently compliant, and to touch base every now and again, as you do with your accountant, using the analogy from before. Am I still making the most of my superannuation, and am I still putting enough money in a slush fund for the business? Am I still tracking okay? To have those sort of check-ins with a company like yourself as well, just to make sure that you are keeping abreast of all of these changes. changes, because by the sounds of it, things can change from one new thing and then a few months later, all of a sudden it's a different new thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, our stuff changes all the time, doesn't it, Carmel?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it does. And I think, as we always say as well, like, you don't know what you don't know. So unless somebody's actually telling you, or advising you any updates, you don't even think to ask about them, because why would you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And the other thing to mention, I suppose, is, Fair Work has updates. There's the Workplace Health and Safety Act in most states, and Victoria still has its state-based Occupational Health and Safety Act. But there's a bunch of other acts as well. I mean, the Equal Opportunity Act is there, the Racial Discrimination Act, the Women, Affirmative Action stuff. There's heaps of legislation out there that actually relate to employment. So it's not enough to be across Fair Work and safety on their own, although they're the two kind of big bits of it. There's all of this other stuff as well. And, one of the trainings we run a lot for small businesses is around harassment, discrimination and bullying, because, there's obligations there and a duty of care for employers, but what does that actually mean? What do I need to do as an employer? What do I need to do as an employee? Because they've got responsibilities under that legislation as well. And what are the potential penalties if something does happen? And if it, am I scared of actually pulling someone up who's not performing because I might get a bullying claim? That's the other thing. So people kind of don't really have a good understanding of what the legal definition is, what it is, what it isn't. And then employers are often just too, swamped with their normal work and worried about bullying to actually pull anyone up.
Yeah, that's right too. And I want to circle back to the book, but I want to say one thing, because some of the things you've been talking about, this one practice has been strong in my head. So they had somebody who was on continued sporadic stress leave, and it's difficult you don't want to make their condition worse. You want to be supportive, but you've got a practice to run as well that needs to have all the team on board to be operational. And when I was doing some research around it just through Fair Work, it did indicate, so please do tell me if I'm wrong, it did indicate that you can be, absolutely be supportive with people with what's going on in their personal lives and their lives within the practice as well, if they've got particular issues around having to, go over a learning hurdle, so they feel, lacking confidence, and that might then affect their attitude coming into work. So all the things that make us weird when we turn up to work in the morning. But there doesn't seem to be any obligation on the employer's behalf to accept a lower than standard performance from any worker. Would I be right in saying that?
Yes, they don't have to accept a lower performance. They're encouraged to, because, and apart from anything else, if you look at the market conditions at the moment, it's most businesses and dental practices are no different, are finding it very difficult to find qualified staff, but even experienced staff or just good admin staff are hard to come by in the current market. We've seen a massive turnaround this year in the market itself. I've never seen it before, and I've been working in HR for 30 years. So it's it's always been an employer to some extent. Like, there's always been certain roles that were difficult to fill, but every role in every industry at the moment is hard to fill. So why would you, part of a role from somebody or reduced hours from somebody is still better than nothing at the end of the day. So yes, there's no legal obligation on employers to accept a lower standard than what's required in the role. Absolutely. But you've got to kind of look at that with that reasonableness hat on again. It all comes back to what's reasonable and what's not. And would it be reasonable to cut somebody some slack for a few months because they're going through something? Probably. Is that going to go on for 3 or 4 years? Well, that's probably not reasonable, to do. So what else can we do? Is it a performance issue because, we've promoted them? And another one that we always say, Carmel, isn't it, that people get promoted to their level of incompetence because they're good at whatever, and then they get promoted. And that if they're good at that, they'll get promoted again. And they get promoted to the point where they're not good at it anymore. So have we put somebody into a role that's too big for them? And do we need to pull them back again, have that sort of conversation? do we need to supply them with some additional training? Because the other thing is people don't understand leadership and management they're skills that can be learned, but you've got to put the time and effort into learning them. There's, thousands of books out there on leadership. But, the best one, of course, is our course that we run on leadership, as I would, always say, because I'm the trainer. But it can be learned. It's not just, you're not supposed to know it because you're the owner. You don't, there are skills and things that you can put into place that will help you manage somebody's lower performance and help them to come up, because we're very much believers in managing people up first. And if that doesn't work, then you look at managing them out if that's the appropriate thing to do for the business.
Nicely turned back towards the book again, because that was one of the things I was going to mention to you, Carmel, that because we're not born with these leadership and management skills, because we never envisaged this would be such a big part of our business ownership life, the HR element and the team management side of it, what the place most of us go to is just resisting it all. Like, I just don't like it. I'm not good at it. And the next natural step for a lot of people is not necessarily to go, well, how can I become a master at this? They just kind of sit in resistance, don't they?
Oh, they do, definitely. They do, because if something's too hard, or somebody, or whether it's a business owner or somebody else may step up just to do it, just to get it done, as opposed to, as Belinda said, just taking the time, number one, to actually recognise it, accept it, and then do something about it. And that is through putting the time and effort into actually training, because whether it's a role being, if you're fulfilling a role because it's through a promotion, or whether it's through because that's what you were hired for, as we also know, communication is, as Belinda always says, once again, nobody ever says that there's too much communication in a workplace. So when information isn't communicated properly, it's not always the person's fault, maybe that they're not fulfilling their role, or understand even the difference between a leader and a manager, which Belinda can touch on the difference between a leader and a manager.
I could talk about it for hours.
Yeah.
Oh, good, we've got hours. That's fantastic.
Excellent. So we actually have a definition for both what leadership is and what management is, because what we find is people find both terms a little bit fuzzy. So they kind of have an idea, but the edges are really fuzzy, and they don't know, as you asked before, Julie, whether or not, how far should I let somebody cry on my shoulder before I need to sort of pass them on to either their GP or an employee assistance program or a counsellor or somebody else, that's kind of trained in that area. So where do you draw the line, basically? Management's the easier one from a definition perspective, only because it's shorter. But they're very different skills. That's the other thing. So you actually need leadership in a business, and when there's a vacuum of leadership, it will occur naturally. So if you look around your practice, you probably find somebody who's a natural leader in there already. But management is about getting things done through other people. So it's about tasks, and it's about other people doing those tasks, not you as the practice owner or manager. So it's about how do you delegate well, KPIs, your procedures, like all of those things that help you to define with people what it is that their role actually is and what it's not. So where are the boundaries? What can I do? What can't I do? Do I have a position description? I can hear the groans already. People hate position descriptions because they always go out of date. And that's true, but everything does unless you update it. So it's a tool that's given to you to help you manage, but it's only as good as if you keep it, an axe is only good if you keep it sharp. Well, PDs only work if you actually update them and then talk to people about them and make sure that they have a good understanding of them. Whereas leadership is a 4-part definition that we use. So it's really about sharing the current environment, so what's happening in the business at the moment, sharing where we're going in the future, so the vision, why do we exist, what's our purpose, engaging the hearts and minds, basically, of the people. So you're trying to get the passion, to go back to the other book that we were just talking about. There you go. Passion that people produce. So if you can engage people, and that's the key word, if you can engage them, then they don't just turn up for money. They turn up because they love it. And there'll be aspects of every job that they love and aspects that they don't. But what can you do as a business owner to create a culture that people are passionate about? And that really comes from vision and purpose. So what's the purpose of your business? And hint, 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 it's not to make money. It's to maybe it's to provide a service to the community. Maybe it's about being the best practice that you can possibly be. Maybe it's about increasing smiles everywhere you go. Like, I don't know, it can be anything, but it's got to be something that resonates with the team. And then you've got to have a shared set of values. So all of us have values. We all have an internal belief system because we got half of it when we were raised, so from our parents, but also from our friends and from peers and that kind of thing, what was happening in the world at the time. I'm a Generation X, so, we tend to see the world as half empty, whereas Y tends to see the glass half full, which is just an interesting kind of thing that happens. And that's largely because of the whole Cold War stuff in formative years at that particular time. And then the final point for leadership is empowerment of people. So it's actually giving them a job to do and then letting them do it and letting them stuff it up and letting them take 5 months to do it and not finish, which drives owners mad, because it's like, I could have done that in 20 minutes. And yes, you could have, but it's about more than the task, so what is it about that? And it doesn't mean that you don't follow it up. It doesn't mean you don't talk about it and all of that kind of thing, but actually teaching people what they can do and what tools there are around those points makes a big difference from a leadership perspective.
It really does. And I'm often repeating to my clients and students within the dental practice management program to plug that, and my own club membership, the recalling or encouraging people to read the book by Daniel Pink called Drive. The title of it's Drive, and you guys probably know all about it. But it does tap into the 3 main motivators that drive our behaviour as human beings, and you've touched on it with your leadership. One is mastery. We want to get better and better at what we do. The other one is autonomy. We want to be able to direct our own behaviour, not be scrutinised, not be over-controlled, certainly not be micromanaged. And the third one is purpose, that we seek out a broader purpose that's stronger than just ourselves to motivate us. And when we're talking about the difference between getting up in the morning and dragging your feet, and I'm just doing it because I need to pay my rent and feed myself this week, and instead you're bouncing out of bed looking forward to the impact that you're going to have because you are all striving towards this grand purpose. It's such a shift in team culture. And one of the assignments that we do in the program, and it is getting people to understand what their big why is. So think back to a scenario where it was interaction between you and a leader, and also interaction between you and a patient, and also interaction between you and a team member, and interaction with yourself in your own separate life, that is really comparing that every time you think back to it, you feel pride, enthusiasm, excitement. You think, gosh, that was such a wonderful moment. My energies rose big time. And when we started to read through these responses, it was bringing tears to my eyes. But it's about reminding everybody or leading people to the thought process of why we turn up every day, because we forget and we do end up just turning up for the money. And if you can start to really tap into what it means to offer effective dental care to people, to me, that ties directly with their self-confidence. And so if you've got a mouth you've got terrible breath, not many teeth, your digestion issues, you're burping a little bit, they're not aesthetic, and so they're not proud of how they smile, and they're closing their mouth and ashamed of their mouth, and they've got disease, so they're always in some level of discomfort. And you think about how that would impact the kind of jobs they go for, how effective they are on the dating scene, how confident they are when they're going out doing networking events or social events, taking up a new hobby. When you really get down to it, because we're talking just about dental here in this particular podcast, I know you help many different people, but with this particular podcast, the big why, the purpose of why you're all there as a dental practice, you can really dig deep into that and have it be a very compelling driver for behaviour for your team.
Look, absolutely. And I would encourage all of the listeners to, if they've not done that, to do that, but do it with their team. This is the other thing. They often forget. They think they've got to bring along some packaged vision all ready to go. No, do it with the team, because then the team understands it, viscerally, really. And what you're really talking about there, Julie, is tapping into the emotional side of those examples that you were talking about. And that's what leadership is. Leadership is not about logic, it's about emotion. Management is about logic and systems and all of that kind of stuff, which you still need to run your business. So one's not more important than the other. We need both. But it's the inspiration, it's the thing that, as you said, bounce out of bed in the morning. It gives you the why you get out of bed in the morning on a cold winter's day and go into work and do it all over again. And do it with a smile and be happy about it.
Because then it's easy. Yeah. Turning up to work happy is easy. Yeah. Otherwise, you have to fake it again. That's exhausting. So if we're encouraging people out there to, not only, I think it's crucial that they connect with you, because I think you are one of the stakeholders of a business that makes sure that you are covering all your bases and can manage this space within your business with great confidence and competence, because we're leveraging off your competence in the space. If there are people out there that say, I do want to shift my mindset around team management and try to build a happier team within this organisation, Carmel, how can your book help?
The book can help. First of all, is that then business owners know they're not on their own. That's probably first and foremost, because with each chapter in the book, it is a challenge that every business owner faces. It doesn't, regardless of the actual industry. It does not matter. And I think it's when reading and even throughout the book as well, there's examples. And I think when you've got examples, I always get this around the wrong way, I think, but it's always about stories sell, facts tell. And once somebody actually reads a story, they'll remember the story as opposed to whether it was an unfair dismissal or whether it was because they didn't actually have the proper policy implemented or because there was no position description. How was the person supposed to know what they were supposed to be doing? So that's probably, that is the crux of the book. And as I said, and even with the other chapters, it's all about, as well, why can't staff get along? Like, we're all adults. Why can't we just get along and just get on and do the job? Like, it sounds so really easy. And why can't I find and keep good people? That's another big one, which we've touched on before, being a candidates market. But I think that one of the biggest as well is that, that all business owners know that compliance is important, but who has the time to actually, and even if you do, and I'll say to everybody, regardless, that even if you do have the time, I really believe you need a tertiary degree to actually read the Fair Work website, because it's a rabbit warren and I feel you get lost and just taken all over the site. And whereas if you just pick up, and we mentioned on our last podcast when we joined you, Julie, that just pick up the phone a friend. This is what we do. It's like, we spoke about an accountant before. It's like when you need insurance, you'll get an insurance broker. So all of those external things that you need in your business, you will call in the expert. Why try and do it yourself? Number one, it's going to take you longer. Number two, is it actually right? And number three, you won't know if it's right until it's wrong. And then you'll find out the hard way. And as we say as well, HR is like insurance. You don't know you need it until you do.
For sure. And I know when I own my practice, and you do everything you can to be compliant, so you're reading these things yourself. So many times this happened, where you go, I've read it, I'm set in stone, it's all good. I know I'm doing the right thing. And then months pass and you realise you're not doing the right thing because you didn't read the next paragraph or the paragraph 10 pages in. And you go, and so then you quickly move from this confidence that you're doing the right thing to a few years down the track, you just always got your fingers crossed. I hope it's okay. It's okay for now, but it may change tomorrow. And so it is such a complex area. It does take a lot of time. And there is a great man, Graham Middleton. He founded Synstrat, an accounting group. They work with vets and dental surgeries. And I've kind of followed him and his articles that he writes for most of my career, and I agree with so many things that he says, of course, because he's much more learned in that space than I am. And one of the things he says is that practice managers, that's a profit killer. that, and I agree with him, that the structure of a dental practice is such that we can bring in these additional roles to help manage things, because things are a bit more complex from the perspective of how much compliance is going on, how much police now, how much more aware patients and team members are around it. So we've got to, not just a professional responsibility, but if we want to maintain a good reputation as well, we need to make sure that we're on top of all of these things. And so some practices may be thinking, I can't afford a practice manager at the moment. I wouldn't know how to manage a practice manager. But even the practice managers out there is formal training out there, but you don't need to have done it to fulfill the role. You guys become one of these crucial resources that no matter where you are on that scale of the size of practice and how large your staff base is, that it's always going to remain this way and it's always going to be changing. And so to, as I say, take you guys on as a stakeholder will really help practices have a lot more confidence and competence in this staff manager space. It's crucial to get right. And what does it look like if a practice rang you guys today and said, yes, I want your involvement. I want you to be our HR arm, like my accountants, our financial arm. What does that journey look like?
Well, firstly, it's tailored. So it looks different for every practice that we work with. And that really depends on what they've already got in place, which we would come and do an appraisal of and have a look at, well, what have you got in place that's working? Because if it's working, we don't bother to change it. But also, what are we doing to keep it updated? So as you said, years pass and you cross your fingers and hope that it's all still compliant, but you're not really sure and all that kind of thing. So that compliance piece and that documentation piece is, if I can be just quite frank, Julie, with just us here, there's only us here, isn't there? It's the boring bit for us. I've got to tell you, really important. Really, really important, because it's the foundation of all of your HR stuff, all your policies and procedures, contracts of employment, position descriptions, all of that stuff, really, really important. Dull. And no one reads procedures, do they? I mean, let's be honest here. They have them, but they don't read them. And so that's why we've invested in the 10 minimum HR procedures that we believe every practice needs have been made into animated videos, so that people can just watch the video on confidentiality and they can just watch the video on social media and then tick it off and it's done. You've kind of got it there. And so we would, generally speaking, if they haven't got any sort of system in place for HR, probably recommend a HRIS cloud-based. So it's like Xero for accounting. This is a similar sort of system for HR and safety. And it gets everything off manual drives and onto a system. It's backed by a legal firm in Sydney and it's updated every quarter. So you don't have to worry about whether or not your policy's right, because it gets updated automatically. Yeah. Your responsibility then is to make sure that it's communicated with your team, which again, it gives you alerts on all of that stuff. So, it's about working smarter, not harder with that stuff. A couple of things there means that it takes up less of our time, which means it's more economical for the client. And it's more up to date. So, it's the no-brainer for us. And then it's about having a look at, is your workforce optimised? What's working for you? What are your hours of operation? Are they useful? Because HR is a support function to the business. And so our function is to make sure that your workforce is helping your business succeed. So it's linked to the strategic plan. So providing that link between what somebody does every day, the vision of the business and the strategic plan, is really the purpose of HR and the managers in the business. So we train your managers on how to do that kind of thing. And the other point I wanted to make was, it's really about our clients work with us, the ones that have sort of 10, 15 staff will work with us on an ongoing basis every month, and we'll have a proactive, there's a revolutionary term for HR, proactive HR plan that we deliver with them, as opposed to reacting to all the fires that happen in the place. So it's about getting ahead of the game rather than, always trying to just keep it going, like as a sort of piecemeal stuff. But it's tailored depending on the number of employees, because the more employees there are, the more there is for us to do, because there's more people to talk to. So if you're a small practice, if you've got under 10 staff, it's very, very affordable. Very, you certainly get, phone a friend comes on every package we have. So there's always someone to ring. We do not have a call centre. We do not do machines. We actually have Gail, who's a real person who answers the phone. And then it's about developing the relationship with the senior HR strategist so that they get to know you, your business, what it's actually about. Because I'm always saying we become a voice for the business entity rather than the employer or the employee. So the business entity requires employers and employees. We need both of them, and it's a mutual need relationship. So we don't believe it has to be adversarial.
Yeah. And I love the phone a friend service that you offer. That's just beautiful. I'm freaking out. Something just happened. I need a friend. I know who I can call. It'll be Gail. That is tremendous. And if people were thinking, we want to start doing things differently now, the type of applicants that we're getting through the doors really aren't performing well. They're not a good fit. There's not a large pool anymore out there. We've got to change the way we have our leadership, our structure, our culture to be able to attract a better person, a better performing kind of person. What do I pay them? How do I manage that onboarding process and performance management? If people want to start going down this path, they can contact you and you can provide the guidance and support all the way through.
Absolutely. Yeah, of course we can. But even with the way the market is at the moment, and as we describe it with recruitment, we've actually had to turn it on its head is the way we describe it, because Seek is just it's far too noisy at the moment. There are so many job ads it just gets lost. And it's all about looking and identifying those that aren't even looking to move from their current role. That's what it's about now. So how we've been able to do that is that every recruitment campaign that we run is we will actually do a video of the job. So there's a snippet to be placed on Seek for those that are looking, so they can read that if they like. However, if with the video, it's a lot more engaging, and most of it's all about the candidate and attracting them. Why work for this place? Is it because they've got free gym membership or free car parking, or they have Fish and Chip Friday, or whatever it is?
I want to work there.
Yeah.
Where is this place?
Yeah, so it's all about, and then even I suppose during this time as well, like money comes in at like third or fourth as a priority for somebody to move or change a job. We spoke about values before, so it's a lot about aligning with personal values, flexibility, the little bit work from home, the little bit at the office, because we know it can be done now, and people like that as well. And a job is more than just a job now. That's probably the crux of it. We just don't turn up to work just to do a job. And we've been able to find huge success in the recruitment that we have been doing for our clients, purely because our approach changed and we're involved right from the beginning right through to the very end. And I think that's what's important as well.
I love that. I think we need to do another podcast episode on it. This is a big pain point. This is a big pain point for practices at the moment. So hopefully you guys are available to do another one just on that topic. That would be hugely valuable.
Yes.
Yeah, that'd be great. We call it Recruit Smarter.
Yes.
Nice. Recruitment.
Recruit Smarter.
Great.
So much so, Belinda wrote a white paper on it. So the next episode, she can tell you all about it.
Oh, that is fantastic. I'll be sending through my Calendly link straight after this program. Well, it's been so delightful to have you guys on. Thank you enormously. Congratulations, Carmel, again on the book. Less headaches, happier team, and more success. Hold it up to the screen just in case this ends up being on the YouTube. Hold it up a little bit higher so we can see your glorious name. Perfect. Look at that. What a beautiful book. I love it. And you've promised to send one out to me so I can read it. Say thank you. I appreciate that. And yes. Belinda as well, both of you, your contribution and advice is so crucial. And every time I speak to you, it is one of those conversations where you think it's going to leverage off to here, there and everywhere. We could be here for another 5 hours. But I know that not everyone's as excited about this space as I am. But and you guys too. But thank you both so much for coming on board. What's the best next step for people that want to reach out to you?
When they're on the website ordering the book, which we will send a complimentary copy. It is a real book, as you can see. It's not a PDF download. While they're on the website, get in contact with us there. And Gail will take your call, and then one of us will give you a call.
Beautiful. Thank you. Any parting words, Belinda?
My parting word is actually from my mentor who still works with us, Robert Ree, who's written a couple of books as well. And it is feedback on performance improves performance.
I love it. I love it. Simple, obvious. We don't do it sometimes.
Isn't that a revolutionary idea?
Yeah.
Oh, it helps the process. Oh, it makes it better. No, I'm not interested. And over to you, Carmel, for your final word.
Oh, my final words, I tend to draw on a couple. My mantra has always been teamwork makes the dream work. But I always do like to refer back to our tagline under the Proven Group, which is great people, better results. And that's what we're all about, working collaboratively with practices. Work with great people, get better results, and win-win.
Win-win. Well, thank you guys for another wonderful episode. I look forward to chatting again about recruitment and how we can look at that from a different perspective and gain better results than what we're getting right now. But I hope you both have a fantastic day, and I'll speak to you next time.
Thanks, Julie.
Thanks, Julie.
If you enjoyed today's podcast, then you should come along and join the club. The club is a whole library of lunch and learns with new lunch and learns being produced all the time that help your dental team gain greater success in your systems, in your team behaviours, in your patient management, in your patient engagement, in their treatment plans. They are usually around half an hour in length, and so team members can sit down, be paid for their lunch break, eat lunch while they're being inspired, and delivered all of these insights and strategies that can be implemented so you all achieve greater levels of success. Also, Amina and I, my buddy from Dental Management Expertise, have a company, Dental Business Mastery, together. And our flagship online 1-year course for dental practice managers and dental practice owners to learn how to very successfully manage your dental practice is available. Head over to dentalbusinessmastery.com.au to find out more information, and has information about any other courses that we've got available. Also, make sure you do jump onto my website, julieparkerpracticesuccess.com.au, and you will see a whole load of free information. There are articles, the blog, downloads, templates, a whole load of things that are designed to help you overcome any specific challenge that you've got going on in your practice at the moment. If you have any suggestions of topics or guests that I can have on the podcast, please let me know. Thanks for listening.